Yes,
You can have a normal view.
If I don't get into trouble.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. It's awfully close now.
I don't see anything yet.
No, okay.
But sometimes there's a delay.
You should say before you were.
You're seeing
I
it?
see a live notification.
That's because she just went online.
No, I haven't actually gone live here
Are you
yet.
on Facebook?
I see something now.
Yeah, no, there, Leah, I didn't actually hit it yet, so you're seeing it there, okay.
Okay.
John, can you hear me? Can you hear me on Facebook?
Eric can.
Yeah, I think
It's working.
there's like a 30-second delay, but.
And it just came up on Vimeo too.
John says thumbs up.
Thumbs up, all right, well, there you go. Let there be light. Okay. All right, well, hello. Hello, everyone.
Hi, Kate.
Welcome to our casual gathering.
Yeah, I wish you could see what I see out here. It's very cool. Hi, everyone, and sorry for the little delay. The software that we use to stream or do our live stream from was showing that it was down. We clicked the go live button anyway, hoping that it might work, and miraculously it did. So thanks for joining us, and we are having our Saturday lunch discussion with Guy. This is our volunteer weekend. What do we call it now? Monthly volunteer weekend. As part of our volunteer weekend, we have a nice day on Saturdays when we do some work around the grounds, clean up, have a nice lunch together here. There are probably about 20 or 30 folks in the room with us. And then we just have a nice informal discussion with Guy afterwards. So thank you for joining us. And if you have any issues during the stream, just reach out to us in the question area or the chat area, wherever you're watching from. You can also send an email to support@guyfinley.org. But I think we're good to go. And I'm going to go back and monitor the stream. Is there anyone who wants to come up and maybe get us started with? Great, thanks, Heidi.
Hello,
Hi, Heidi.
I just wanted to give a report about our conversation last month. It was incredibly helpful to be honest and share the struggle of judgment that goes on in my mind. And you said an awful lot about it. And what I wanted to report back to people who watched, and to you, and to kind of reiterate in myself, is first just the value of being willing to share what the mind is doing all of the time, as ugly as it is, to just say, this is what my mind is doing. And it created a lot of separation, mostly a taste of just bitter and distastefulness when judgment comes up in an interaction, and a willingness to be silent, nothing, not share, just unfamiliar ground, but good new ground.
Did you say not care?
No.
What did you say?
I don't know.
Oh,
What did I say?
I think you said,
Not share, to not share
oh, not sure.
what my mind would mechanically do. And yeah, I mean, lastly, that identity, that self, that thinks it's a judge, it's like a big football player inside of me that I didn't know was running around tackling people,
Charlie?
if need be. But it's just good to see these states and to have the opportunity to not live my entire life like that. So I want to say thank you.
You bet.
Yeah. Who's next?
I've said in the past that really a person can't know what real faith is until they are willing to face a fear straight up. We don't have any real awareness at all of how many lines, like I discussed today on Insight Timer, how many different ways in which our tracks are laid out for us way before we even engage in a conversation that causes us to step along that line. That's why we use that word today, this word leap. You have to find out that you can't, I'll say it positively, you have to find out that there is something in you that without you knowing it, literally until the moment that it is produced, made to appear through a reaction, there is something in you that never stops trying to protect you.
That's right.
And the only way that you'll ever know that the pain of that relationship, because if something appears suddenly and I feel like I've got to say something or do something, got to rush, I've got to run. In that moment when I'm taken over by that, I have no notion whatsoever that I have fallen into a line, if you will, of conditioned thought reaction. And that by the very nature of me feeling like I have to protect myself, that's pain. We don't know the pain of trying to protect ourselves because we're completely deceived by the illusion that there's something to be protected and that we can get through that moment safe and sound if we just listen to those thoughts and feelings as they're going through us. You're free when you understand that you don't need protection. That's where freedom is. And until you get to the point that you see how mechanical this constant defensiveness, your mind talking to itself, explaining yourself to other people, just goes on and on, going into the past. One day you won't believe how much pain you were able to endure. God willing, you won't believe how much pain you've been willing to endure for the sake of something that does nothing other than give you a continuous sense of self. Years ago, I told a story, a little silly story about a man on a boat, you and I on a boat, and the boat runs into something and it starts to sink. And he goes through all the things that a person does when their little boat starts to sink. What are some of the things you do when your little boat starts to sink? Anybody, out loud.
Bail out.
Well, that'd be one thing, I start bailing, but at some point I realize I'm taking on more water than I can get rid of. What is, take a nap? Well, that,
Plug the holes.
take a nap, try to plug the hole. Roger said, eat something.
Blame the boat.
Huh?
Blame the boat.
Get mad at the boat.
Abandon ship.
Try to go
Abandon
faster, but abandon ship.
Abandon ship.
Abandon with there's
Where?
where you're deep. You're 1,000 miles out in the water.
Flagged in another boat.
There's no other boats.
No boats. No boats are coming for us.
Barbara, come on, Barbara. What, Doug?
Start making promises to God.
Yeah. Doug said, "Start making promises to God," which was out of that movie, The End, with Burt Reynolds. Very cute film. If you just let me get to shore, I'll give you 90% of my earnings. It gets closer, 80%, 70, 60, 50, 3%. Thank you, God, for saving me. You have to leap to find out that the ground is always beneath your feet. Not safety as you think of safety in terms of continuity. For you, for us, as a rule, the whole idea of safety is connected to the continuity of our idea of security. And it, all wrapped up in that. That's it for us. So the leap of faith is to understand that you're not going to save the boat. You're not going to save yourself. That as long as you've been trying to bail the water out of your boat, get people into your boat or out of your boat accordingly, you'll never know that you're in water that's just up to your waist, and that's it. Then you're not afraid anymore, because you understand the worst thing that can possibly happen to you is that you're involved in trying to save yourself. That literally is the worst thing that can happen to a human being, is they believe that they're going to do something in order to stretch out the line of this sense of self, the continuity of it, which is really, I just want to make it from here to there and get out of whatever this problem is so that I can go through that again, and plan after plan after plan. And then one day you start to understand, you know what? this is mind-blowing. Are you ready? There actually already is a plan.
Right.
But it's only yours when you understand your plan is not the plan. You can have plans. There's nothing wrong with plans. But when plans become a problem and a pain and a torment, then you can be sure it wasn't you making that plan, but some part of you that was sure that if you could just get off the boat and onto shore, then you'd be okay and you could buy another boat. Speaking of buying another boat, Captain Debbie.
Yeah, there we go. Hi, I'm Deborah. This goes back to your Wednesday night talk,
Back to Wednesday night talk.
about surrender and humility,
Humility and surrender, the relationship between them.
and how this nature lives its life demanding answers. Like, I think I'm asking.
Remember now, there's
I'm sorry. I think I'm asking God for help. This nature's doing is demanding help. Save me right now. Just save me. I can't take this anymore. And there's such a difference in the quality of your spirit when you realize that. First of all, you're demanding something of God, and something in you, like, that's where humility must come in. I don't know. I know I still don't have it, and it's not even something I can have.
she's having a very in-depth conversation with herself.
Well, I'm trying to talk to
just enjoy it. I can
everybody.
relax completely.
I don't know. I don't know. This is something that I'm struggling with. I can feel there's a difference in how I ask. And it's not even me who's asking. It's something in your spirit that's asking. And I think that's where humility comes from. I don't know. That's what I'm struggling with.
We could go through this a couple different ways. But if you were going to guess, and all of you, assuming we're still actually streaming,
We are live,
it's a
yeah.
miracle. Do you know the three words that almost never come out of a human being's mouth? And until those three words come out of a human being's life, all that human being can do is continue to try to save the boat that's sinking and to ensure that their security remains in place. Do you know what the three words are?
Help me.
What, John?
Maybe I'm wrong.
John said, maybe I'm wrong. Well, that'd be a start, but that's not quite it. At least that opens the door to questions. Wayne is busting his britches.
I need help.
Now, I need help is actually a good one. I need help. But the problem is that when something in you says, I need help, all too quickly you hear something say, well, I'm here to help you.
Right.
And then you're bailing again.
Yeah.
Barbara,
I don't know.
I don't understand. See, you have moments where pain comes because you see you don't understand, but then you let that pain drive you into a derivative conversation with a part of you that then you start listening to explain to you your situation.
Yeah.
When you really don't understand, your mind is still. When you really don't understand, your mind is quiet. Because you have gone through all the iterations, all the conversations, and that's part of your work. Going through this reiteration of the different thoughts and feelings and the people you love and you blame and you worry about and what's tomorrow and what about yesterday and I'm in such a terrible state, what am I going to do about my terrible state?
Help me. I'm sinking.
Help me, I'm sinking, I'm melting.
Thinking or thinking?
Sinking.
Sinking is thinking. I don't understand. How many times have you had a moment where, and going back to Insight Timer this morning, and if you didn't see it, I think they put it up there, don't they? A day
It's on
later?
our
There's a delay.
website and it gets
It
up
goes
to
up on
the
our
meeting.
website and, okay, it goes up on our website. It's a leap to understand that you can't bring an end to your fear. It's a leap because you are not taking step by step. You're not believing in Jesus. You're not hoping that Buddha or Muhammad or somebody's going to show up and give you some seal of approval. You're not waiting for something to take place a minute later that's going to make sure everything goes right. You just have seen beyond the shadow of a doubt that given this circumstance, that condition is coming up in you. You've seen it 1,000 times. But you have to get to the place where you've seen it 1,000 times, and we never see it 1,000 times because when that condition comes up, we're shuttled off into something that wants to ensure that who we are leading into that moment can keep going. Better, in quotes, I'll be a better person after this, but you're not a better person after that. The truth is you are more constrained to a sort of chrysalis in which thought wraps around you, and then all the more quickly gives you the solutions to your pain. If I really don't understand my pain, what am I left with? I hope some of you have gone far. If I really don't understand, God, how many times am I going to walk the line of that fear? How many times? How many times am I going to walk the line of that resentment or that regret? The anxiety over something that's not going. How many times will I walk that line? Because it is a prison.
Yeah.
The line of thought is inseparable from the line of time that gives rise to it. The line of thought is inseparable from the line of time that gives rise to it. Every line of thought comes from the past. It is the past. But it doesn't appear to be the past because it's connected to a future that it projects. And so you see from where you are, you don't see that what I'm looking at here is actually an extension of my past. I don't see it because all I have is what I'm identified with to come, if I could just get to this point. But as you work and you, like the hero of our story, you start to see, you know what? If I stay here, there's nothing. Hopelessness transforms into despair. Despair transforms into desperation. Desperation transforms into the next thing to save you from the despair. And it just makes a downward spiral. That's how these negative thoughts work. Each one hidden within the other, but all an extension of the same level of consciousness. That's how it works. And when you start to understand that the moment you take one step on that line, you're done, because you wouldn't step on it if something wasn't promising you that you could walk past or get through that moment. In that moment, I don't understand. Like, how many of you are sure, and I know you do, I watch, especially my students, you're sure you understand what's wrong with the person you're arguing with? Right, Kate? I mean, no, the minute you have at odds with another person, you are sure what's wrong with them. Yes or no?
Yes.
Well, but you don't see that as a line from the past.
Right.
You don't see that as the conditioning of a mind that has been twisted and in conflict with somebody. You don't see it as it's squirming to escape the content of its own experience, because it points to a place where you can explain to yourself the pain you're in by blaming the other person for it. You see it, and then you think you're saved, you're relieved, but you're not, are you? Because it just goes on. I know it's a stretch, but I'm telling you it's the truth. You do your work. You get to the place where the next time you start to have hostilities between yourself and any other person, you get to the place where you would rather die than carry on that thought, that conversation, and you'll find out shortly thereafter 3 things. 1, I can't bear the pain of not continuing this conversation. My mind will not let it go.
Right.
Yes or no?
Yes.
Now, if I want to let it go and my mind won't let it go, what does that tell me about that moment and what I'm aware of? What does it tell me?
My life is not my own.
My mind isn't my own mind. I thought it was because I always agreed with it. But I'm not in agreement with it anymore. Because I understand at that point that my agreement continues the line that keeps me in disagreement with everyone else. I can't go along with that. So that's one. I see very clearly there's something moving in me and I did not initiate that movement.
Right.
Negative emotion. Do you know the word, the real meaning of the word emotion? We think emotion means how I feel. Feeling and emotion are not the same thing at all. Feeling and emotion are not the same thing at all. Emotion is the energetic movement of a sensation then described by thought telling you what that feeling was. That's what it is. It's a movement of energy. You can see it. First comes the movement, the resistance or the attraction. Am I going too fast?
No.
First comes the movement, and then I know what the movement is. So I appears after, in quotes, the energy of that motion, and it takes credit or disavows whatever that emotion was. But it's just a sensation. Don't you ever wonder why your anger goes on? It goes on because the body is like a resonating instrument, like hitting one of those pitch sound, what do they call it, Doug? A tuning fork. The body, it picks up this energy and it starts to move with the energy. It resonates the energy. The resonation of that energy is not a feeling, it is an emotion, an energetic motion. And once that energetic motion gets going and it's not corresponding with what you want, what takes place in you then with that emotion? I don't want it. So now I am resisting the emotion, which gives rise to what? For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So my body becomes more and more stiff. You know that.
I do.
Where's Barbara? Yeah, I mean, I get like lock face. It's a new word. Lock face. Do you not see? You watch these politicians. Lock face, except for the stupid grins or whatever else, the grimace that comes across their face. And I'm not choosing one side or another. I'm just saying you can see it. A dead human being is someone who has mistaken emotion for so long and resisted the movement through it because they can't control it, that they finally get locked down into the weeping and wailing, the full crystallization of that man or woman. So I said there were three things. I covered the first one. What was the first one? Anybody remember?
Yeah, it's me.
What kind of
My
group
life
is this?
not my own.
Somebody's trying to protect me.
Somebody's coming to get you? Doug, she needs real help.
Never mind.
I understand. I can't, my mind's not my own. It wants to keep going.
Right.
So now suddenly, for the first time ever, in the truest sense of the word, because I have decided I don't understand and can't go along with the deception of knowledge, I'm there and I feel all of this emotion, all of this energy, and I can't go along with it. Now what takes place? Where does awareness come from? Have you ever thought about what is the nature of this thing called awareness?
It's a gift.
Resistance?
I intend to go into this so deeply later. Anytime an active force meets a passive force, creative energy meets what is created. You know, as we've talked about enough times, that in that moment there is a tremendous amount of force that takes place between these two seemingly different conditions. Seemingly different conditions. They're not different at all. They're really the same. One is energetic, one's in form. One is timeless, the other is in time. Seemingly different. And when they meet, it is the intersection of those forces that creates awareness.
Huh?
It is the intersection of creation the forces of creation that produce the awareness of what's being created. I'll let that sink in. I know it's a lot to swallow.
Yeah.
But then you start to say, well, of course, there's always awareness. Everything's aware. Why? Because everything is in the throes of meeting what is acting on it and bringing about the appearance of that which reconciles those two things. That's what that awareness is, Holy Spirit, if you want to use those words. Reconciling force. It exists because that never stops taking place. So, who remembers what the first thing is that happens?
Your mind is not your own, you realize.
I realize it's not my mind.
Okay.
Now suddenly, I realize it's not my mind, but what do I have in that moment? Because I didn't go along with the force, suddenly there is a resistance and a realization of something that shows me at once that there is that which is acting, there's that which wants to be acted on, being acted on, this me that feels this,
Right.
but suddenly there's something else there.
Right. Okay.
Awareness. Not my awareness, it's God's awareness. It's not your awareness, I'm sorry.
That's a lot.
But with you, Roger, there's a big self in there. Yes. No, that's a fact. There's no self with a small s. There's no self. But there is the awareness, but the problem is, the third thing is that once this awareness starts to blossom, something in us that wants nothing to do with not knowing exactly who we are and what has to be done, it claims that light. And it calls that light darkness because to it is darkness because it can't exist. That negative nature can't exist in the light of that awareness. So you have I'm breaking down a whole enchilada here. For you to see that at some point, I don't understand. And then it has to stay there. And then everything else will come out of that. Not you taking something out of it. Isn't that the whole thing? Aren't you always trying to take something out of every moment?
Yeah,
Stop it.
that's the demand. Yes.
That is the demand.
Yes.
This moment isn't the moment it should be. I want to take out of it or get rid of it. Interference. How upside down everything is. This nature actually believes that when it is interfering with what amounts to a divine relationship between opposing forces that are drawn to one another. Two forces never meet that aren't drawn to each other.
So the question that came to my mind as you were speaking was, well, what's that step that I need to take off the path?
Watch that finger.
I'm sorry. What's the leap I have? What's the leap that this nature or I need to take off that path so that I can be different? But I can see that even asking that question, what do I do next, is
preparing the step.
It's denying
not the leap.
everything you just said.
Well, stop it.
Okay. All right. Should I go?
John isn't amused. I can tell things didn't go well today.
No.
Yeah.
I'll go sit down.
No. See, what if you said to yourself, I am so hot and uncomfortable.
I am so hot and uncomfortable, you have no idea.
What if I was aware of all that and I thought, you know what, I'm going to let it get as hot and as uncomfortable as it can possibly get. What would that do to me? What would be going on inside of me? I'd be aware of this line from the past that wants no uncomfortable moment, trying to escape itself by avoidance. I wrote a phrase down today. Again, it'll be something I go into later. Here, imagine somebody, they go to a funeral, the open casket, and they say, God, what happened to him? He was so young. And he doesn't know that he's talking to one of the angels, visiting one of the angels. And the angel looks at him, he says, I don't think you'll understand this. Well, don't try me. Death by avoidance. Death by avoidance. You want to know what kills the soul? Fear. What creates fear? Resistance. What creates resistance? The past. What keeps that past in place? Fear of death. That is death. She still wants to move.
I do, I so do. I can just see that every question that my mind wants to pose to you is an avoidance. It's a crystallization. It's, what did he say, lock face or something?
Lock face.
Yeah, lock face. It's something that just wants,
It's a Scottish disease.
something that just wants to, just, you know, there's a nature that just wants to know.
Okay. But see, look,
But you are explaining it. I mean, I don't know.
you need to see this when you're not talking to somebody.
Yeah.
You need to see this when you're busy talking to yourself.
Right.
Talking to others sets the stage for certain revelations, because human beings are in endless conflict within themselves and therefore with everyone else they meet. Always some story carrying forward. I have another thing. It's good. I can get rid of a lot of talks and with just a few little thoughts here. Well, there's some. You know what happens? Here, somebody is. You're with. I won't say with John. You're out with somebody. Okay.
Okay.
And you're having a nice time. You're throwing down a few glasses of wine. You know how you like to do that.
Yeah, right.
And put yourself in her place. And that person says something to you.
Oh no. Oh boy.
And it's not quite along the line. Do you understand that I mean, there's a constraint. You don't see it. And that for us, that one step out of line, one little innuendo, great word. And then what happens? And here's what happens. Something in you says, stop, let me go get my notes
Right. Oh, that's true.
so I can know how to deal with this moment. Only it happens like that. With God as my witness, because different centers move at different speeds, and your mind is the slowest of all creatures. As a rule, it really is. As a rule, intellect's quick, but not as quick as emotion. And all the rest of that even takes second plays fiddle to other movements. But that move like that. Can you imagine if you were actually out with somebody and they said, "Excuse me," and they got up and they went out to their car and they brought in about 8 suitcases and they started filing through a bunch of notes and they go, "What do you mean by that?" Because you finally decided you're not afraid of that person, so you're going to challenge them. Where you could have picked a piece of paper up that said, "I don't want to be like that. Please help me." Yeah. And all of them are disingenuous, aren't they?
Yes.
Because why? Because they belong to something aligned of the past. Do what you don't want to do. Go through what you don't want to go through. Try and keep your attention in the room. I know that the church next door is having some kind of bake sale or something like that. There's all these oohs and ahs as they unveil cookies. That's the average life of a human being. One more line, one more day, one more distraction, one more thing to think about, one thing to go home and talk about that stupid person who tried to sell me a cake for $42. Did we do anything?
Yes.
You could watch her. See, you could actually see her mind go, "Let me go get my notes."
Yes, that's right.
I know.
Yeah, I know you know.
And then decide the least offensive, most positive answer I can come up with.
I know. I don't know what else to say. I'm gonna go sit down.
Yeah.
Okay.
John, she's quiet for a while.
A little bit.
It's not complicated. I don't know why it takes so long for things to get uncomplicated. The mind makes everything complicated so it can solve the problems it's made. And in solving the problem, continuing the past, and in continuing the past, ensuring that that particular sense of self goes on uninterrupted. It is you being willing to interrupt that movement of thought by seeing the uselessness of it that finally is the leap itself. And then when you leap, you discover that you didn't have to be afraid. You didn't need an answer for that. You didn't need to know how to look. All that stuff.
I want to talk about two things.
Two things.
The first thing is, 40 some years ago, I heard Vernon Howard give a talk about taking a leap. And it always stayed with me. It was a very emotional talk. And I don't think anything helped me through the years more than learning how to take a leap. If you let your mind and your thought get in there, you won't do it. Like say getting up in front of a microphone. You just got to take a leap and do it. But if you think about it and think about what you're not going to do it. So it is such a helpful thing to take a leap. And the next thing I wanted to say,
Yes.
when a person's in a state and they know they're in the state, they can feel it. And the work has talked about to be an actress or an actor. And I know from what I understand about that, I know if I'm in a state and I hate to say pretend, but act outside that state,
I'll help you.
it disappears.
Yeah,
The state will disappear.
You're not pretending.
Yeah.
Pretending is when you do something that you don't know why you're doing it for a result that you've imagined. I pretend to be a nice person because then you're going to like me.
Mm-hmm.
But let's say I'm in a lot of pain.
Yeah.
I understand because I have been in that place enough times that when I'm in that kind of pain, my relationship to most people always has some form of blame or some suffering in it, something that I don't want to be around them. I'm full of resistance, not just to them, I'm just full of resistance.
Yeah.
So knowing that that's pain and that anyone around me that's subjected to that emanation is going to suffer, I suffer myself instead of making you suffer by acting as if I am not, by acting, how do I say this? By acting in an appropriate role to the relationship, but without deriving an identity from it, and certainly not for the sake of hiding from myself my state. So when you do that, you are actually more aware of your suffering, not less aware, which is what pretense is usually about.
That's perfectly said. But, it's like you said, it's such a fine line. You don't want to, you're more aware of the state and suffering the state, but you're not going with it in the same way. It's hard, it's a fine line between.
No greater wife, no greater,
I keep saying that.
no greater love is there than the wife who lays down her life for her husband, for the opposites.
Yeah.
And that's what that's what that is. But that's what that always is. It's just that we're never there, aware of the fact that the will we're serving is this continuity of a sense of self that doesn't care what it does to others. In fact, the truth is, when you're negative, you really want people to know you're negative.
Right.
Because that way you'll get something from them as a result of your pitiful state or your mopey face or whatever it is. Don't bring it around me. You know better than that. But you can see it all the time. People do that, so you go, what's wrong? And then you're dead. You're done. But most of you haven't learned that. You go, what's wrong with you? I'm so glad you asked. And then comes some joy into your life because you get to spread gloom and doom all over everyone around you. Oh, mama.
Drove all the way here.
Just to get into trouble.
All the way.
Right.
She was in India less than 10 minutes ago. Yes.
Well, just a funny remark before I say something else.
You need to speak.
If I can't hear you, nobody can hear you.
Sorry. So just a funny remark before I say anything else.
A funny remark.
Yes.
Okay, it better be funny. You set the stage for it.
No, so I don't know. This was I attended the the weekend of wisdom last December, and that's when I noticed that Guy looks like Santa.
Oh.
And the
I'm glad I didn't hear that, whatever it was. Oh, I look like Santa Claus? Ho, ho, out you go.
and all of them look like elves.
Elves.
Like really, I mean.
What about the trolls that are out there?
Yeah. And just yesterday, it came to me like you're the sassy Santa because
The sassy Santa?
Yeah,
What the heck?
because you're kind of bold and full of spirit, and I feel like and the reason maybe I'm learning that you just speak from your heart, and when you speak from your heart, you don't know what's coming out of you before it comes out.
No, that's not altogether true.
No, okay, I'll just rephrase and I'll bring it back to me.
Yeah.
And so I'm noticing that when I'm speaking from my heart and I'm really present, I'm not completely sure what's gonna come out of me. I just see it and just it's like a river that just wants to go out. And if I resist it, I don't feel good. So it has to come out the way it has to come out. And then I get into trouble.
Yeah, but see, okay, there's a lot of things you're saying, and I don't know which one of the tributaries of this river I want to go down with you. One, the world will tell you, and it does, that strength is your right to speak your mind regardless of what happens to those you're speaking to. That isn't strength, that's weakness. So if you're talking about going with the flow that way and you get into trouble, you should get into trouble when you do that.
Okay.
But on the other hand, like in Scripture, the disciples, Christ, they said, you want us to do what? Yeah, I want you to go and not spread the word about Jesus. I want you to go take these teachings that you are the instrument now of. I want you to take these teachings and be an example to those that you sit with. Let them understand that that you turn a piece of wood over, you split a rock, there am I. There is this living light. I want you to do that. And of course they said, but how are we supposed to do that? And what did he say to them one way or another? He said, you'll have what you need when the time comes. Now that river is another kind of river. That's a spirit river. And that's the difference between the two. And if you get into trouble when you are speaking from spirit, and how do I say this? If you think you're speaking from spirit, you're speaking from the wrong spirit. If you think it's spirit talking, it's not spirit talking. When spirit's talking, there's no comparison. There's no awareness of oneself being an instrument of what is being said. There's just a movement. And that's an important discipline. But you have to make your mistakes.
Yeah, but why do you think I get it? Because you always call me trouble.
You are trouble. You're nothing. You're the embodiment of trouble.
Yeah, can you tell me why? I mean, what do you see?
Because you're asking me that question.
But I want correction.
I can't correct you. I can't correct you. Not that way, I can't. There's a default position psychologically that we just fall into. We have no idea that pit of conditioned thoughts and feelings and all of their associations, we have no idea that we are always treading just around it, so that without almost any catalyst at all, I fall into the feeling of I. And that's the trouble. With almost no catalyst at all, I just fall into I. never suspecting that the eye I have fallen into, I was pushed off of the cliff by another eye, so to speak. And now everything that's coming out of me feels so real. I know so much. I understand, or I want to be corrected. All that business, it all is just coming from a place that's actually an avoidance of what I need. The leap is away from I. But you can't leap away from I, because if there's an I trying to leap from I, you're the I. There's just the leap that takes place when I can't keep walking down that road, when I can't keep using those tones, when I can't keep blaming people, when I can't keep excusing myself. That's the leap. Now you've been corrected.
Thank you. We're ready to wrap up?
Yeah. That went fast. I always saw 5 people looking at their watches a few times.
That was really
By the way,
good.
that's very rude in case none of you know that. Imagine going to see somebody perform and they're giving their heart and
Right.
All right, well, thank you for joining us today. And of course, you can join us again tomorrow here on Facebook and YouTube at 9:30 a.m. Pacific time for our usual Sunday class. I hope you will tune in for that. And here is the title, I wrote it down. Realize the divine order of life at work in you and watch fear and worry disappear. So do join us for that. If you're not able to join us live, we will have the replay posted right after class on both places. And I also just want to mention that we have one more big event coming up this year in 2024, which is our holiday banquet weekend. And that is going to be December 13th through the 15th. It features 4 talks by Guy, a big nice banquet, lots of time to meet with all the folks here, the local students, not loco, but local. Yeah, it's really nice. If you haven't been here for one of our Christmases or holiday banquets, there's nothing like being here in person and immersing yourself, being bathed in this atmosphere. So I do encourage you to come. And you can find out more about that on our website, just in the events section. I think that wraps it up. Did I remember everything? Okay, it's a wrap. See you tomorrow. Bye, everybody.
Please help me up the chair.